All right, so you know how we all get kind of obsessed with like how do they do it?
Yeah.
Like what's the secret sauce? Well, tonight we're going deep on this Drive Dreams TV special they did. It's called Billionaire Rules. And it's basically like cheat codes for life, but straight from the people who've actually like made it to the top of the mountain.
Yeah, what's really cool about this one is it's not just like the usual inspirational quote stuff. It's about what these billionaires actually do, like habits, mindsets, even some of the counterintuitive moves they made early on.
Okay, so forget the private jets for a minute. Like what's the first thing these billionaires actually focused on?
Skills over lifestyle. It's almost like a behind-the-scenes look at success, but before all the luxury stuff. You got to build those valuable skills. And we're not just talking about enter high skills. There are 4 specific areas that almost every billionaire in the series had mastered early on in their journey.
Okay, I'm ready. Give me skill number 1.
Sales. Now, before you're like, oh, I'm not running a business, think about it this way. Sales is really just persuasion and communication. It's about getting people to see the value in whatever you're offering. Could be a product, an idea, even just your own expertise.
Oh, wow. I never thought about it like that.
Yeah.
But you're right. Like, if I'm trying to convince my boss to let me run with a new project, that's sales. Or if you're
Yeah.
negotiating with a client, boom, sales again.
Exactly. And they even go deeper in this series, showing how billionaires use these sales techniques, not just in business, but in their personal lives too. Getting your family on board with something or like rallying your community around a project. It's all sales at the core.
Okay, I'm officially intrigued. What's next on this billionaire skills list?
Networking. And I don't just mean like collecting business cards at some fancy event. Billionaires get that. It's about building genuine relationships. And there's this great story about how just changing the way you answer the question, so what do you do, can totally change the game.
Yeah, you've got to tell me more about that.
Okay, so instead of just saying your job title, you think about how your work provides value to other people. Like instead of I'm a graphic designer, you could say, I help businesses visually communicate their brand in a way that really connects with their customers.
Oh, yeah, that's way better. You're not just stating a fact. It's like you're starting a conversation.
Right, and you're offering value right off the bat. Makes you someone who can solve problems, which is huge when you're making connections.
Okay, adding that to my mental toolbox right now. So we've got sales, networking. What's skill number 3?
This one is all about leadership. And this is where you really see a difference between millionaires and billionaires. Millionaires are often focused on building systems and processes, but billionaires, they build people.
Interesting. It's like they're not just creating a machine that works, but investing in the people who run that machine.
Exactly. And they show some really cool ways billionaires do this, like mentorship programs to find and train talent, leadership training that goes way beyond the usual corporate stuff, even hiring people based on potential instead of just what's on their resume.
So they're not just attracting talent, they're actively creating it within their companies, like building an environment where people can actually thrive.
Exactly. And this long-term approach, it pays off big time. It creates loyalty. People come up with new ideas, and the whole company is more adaptable. Which brings us to the final skill, and maybe the most important one.
Right, lay it on me. What's the 4th skill?
Vision. Billionaires aren't just dreamers, they're visionaries. They can see the potential in something when everyone else just sees nothing, and they're not just hoping it'll work out. They know it will.
Okay, but how do they go from just a vision to actually making it happen?
It's about goals. Big, audacious goals, but then breaking them down into smaller steps. Billionaires are amazing at planning and setting milestones along the way.
Makes sense. Even the biggest goals feel doable if you break them down into bite-sized pieces.
Exactly. And this is where persistence comes in. They don't let setbacks stop them.
So you got to have the skills, the vision, and the guts to keep going. This is starting to feel like a high-stakes game. And we're just getting warmed up.
You're catching on quick. And speaking of high stakes, the next rule is all about something that can make or break even the most talented people.
Okay, I'm ready. What's rule number 2?
It's all about finding that balance between protecting what you've already won and still pushing for more growth. It's diversification, but not the way you might think.
Oh, interesting. I've always heard about diversifying income streams, especially early on. Are they saying that's bad?
Not necessarily bad, but maybe not the best move, especially when you're first starting out. The series really emphasizes that when you're building something, Focus is everything. Pour all your energy into that one big win, that breakthrough that sets you up for everything else.
Right. If you're trying to do too much at once, you might not have the momentum to actually break through.
Exactly. It's like trying to climb like 5 mountains at the same time. You're going to use up all your energy, and you might not reach the top of any of them.
So you're saying, get to the top of that first mountain. Then you start thinking about diversifying.
Exactly. And they have this cool concept for how to manage that. The 50-50 rule.
Ooh, love a good rule. Tell me more.
It's really simple, but it works. When these billionaires make a big win, they split the profits in half. 50% goes into safe investments to protect those gains, build that long-term security, things like index funds, real estate, stuff that's not going to get rocked by market changes.
So that's like the safety net. Makes sense.
Yeah.
But what about the other 50%?
That's where things get interesting. That's the fuel for the fire. That money goes into new ventures, riskier investments, the moonshot opportunities with huge potential.
So it's not just playing it safe. It's knowing how to balance risk and reward.
Exactly. Protect your wins, but leave room to go after those game-changing opportunities.
This 50-50 rule is brilliant. I love it.
And you know what? This ties in perfectly with the last rule, which is all about patience. Long-term thinking.
Okay, hit me with rule number 4.
It's all about playing the long game. These billionaires, they're not looking for quick wins. They're in it for the long haul, thinking in terms of decades, not just months or years.
It's like building a house. You don't expect to move in after laying the first brick.
Perfect analogy. And the series shows how this long-term thinking affects everything they do. Their businesses, their charity work. They're not chasing trends. They're building legacies.
So how do they stay so patient? Like in this world where everything is so instant.
They have a really clear vision for the future. It's not just setting goals, it's knowing why you're doing what you're doing, what kind of impact you want to have.
Okay, yeah. If you have that strong sense of purpose, it's got to make it easier to stay motivated.
Exactly. It's like having a North Star guiding you. And they also talk about something else that's really important. Generosity.
Wait, generosity. How does that fit in?
Billionaires know that success isn't a zero-sum game. It's not about keeping all the wealth for yourself. It's about creating value and sharing it with others. They build strong networks. They mentor people. They give back to their communities because they know that when everyone rises, everyone benefits.
It's about the long game for everyone, not just yourself.
Exactly. And that generosity, it builds trust. It creates goodwill, which leads to even more success in the long run.
This is incredible. We've gone from skills to timing, diversification, and now this whole idea of playing the long game with generosity. I feel like we're really getting a glimpse into the billionaire mindset.
You're getting it. But remember, the real power of these rules is in using them in your own life.
That's where the magic happens, right? Putting these ideas into action.
Exactly. And that's what we'll talk about in the last part of our deep dive.
Okay, before we move on, let's just recap what we've covered so far. We've got the 4 key skills: sales, networking, leadership, and vision.
We talked about timing and how the best opportunities are often hiding where everyone else sees risk. And of course, the 50-50 rule, that brilliant strategy for balancing security and growth.
And finally, the power of playing the long game with patience, generosity, and a clear vision for the future.
So as we head into the final part, I want to ask you this. What's really resonating with you from these billionaire rules? What's got you thinking? What's making you see your own path to success in a new way?
It's crazy, right? Like, these rules sound so simple, but when you put them all together, it's like this whole other level of thinking. It's not about luck or who, it's like a whole different playbook for success.
Yeah, and what's really interesting to me is how connected all these rules are. You can't really master one without at least understanding the others. It's like a system, a framework for how to think and act that leads to these incredible results.
Totally. You can't just pick and choose the rules you like. You got to embrace the whole thing. But I'm curious, like, out of everything in this series, was there anything that really stood out to you? Something they didn't say outright, but you kind of felt throughout the whole thing?
That's a good question. For me, it was this underlying theme of self-belief. They never list it as an actual rule, but it's there in every single story.
Oh, you're so right. You can have all the skills in the world, perfect timing, everything. But if you don't believe in yourself, it's not going to happen.
Exactly. Belief is what keeps you going when you have doubts, when things get tough, when people tell you you can't do it.
It's like the foundation of everything else.
Right. You have to believe it, to see it, to achieve it.
That's what makes these billionaire stories so powerful. They show you that anything is possible.
Exactly. And it's not like you're born with this belief. You have to build it.
So it's not about waiting for that moment where you suddenly feel confident.
Nope. You got to take action even when you're scared.
And the belief will come later.
It's a journey. Every challenge you overcome, every risk you take, makes that belief stronger.
Man, this has been an awesome deep dive. We've gone from billionaire habits to the mindset that makes it all possible.
And it's not just for billionaires.
Right. These principles can work for anyone, no matter what you're trying to achieve.
Absolutely.
So as we wrap things up here, I want to leave you with this. What's your billionaire move this week? What one thing can you do to get a little closer to your goals?
It doesn't have to be huge. Just take action.
Remember, it's not about overnight success.
It's about consistency, strategic thinking, and never giving up on your vision.
And that self-belief. Don't forget that
It's the secret weapon.
this is just the beginning. Keep learning, keep growing.
And keep pushing those boundaries.
Who knows? Maybe someday we'll be talking about your success story on Drive Dreams TV. That's it for this deep dive. We'll catch you next time.